25, 40 years ago, we were having more world championships, we had more fun. Because those two guys are they could convince just about anybody. If they came here to oppose us, they'd go home saying, we had fun. Rob Black, Buck Mercedes. I love them both, honestly. I want to thank you to the committee of the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame of the museum. Chairman Jeremy Diamond and Director who I've met through the last 2 days, the Operation Scott Crawford. Thank you for making this possible for you to attend. I would never dreamt I would ever be in their presence and listen to the word I heard today. So great people. I'm honored to be standing here at a place I never dreamt I'd ever be here. As a young boy growing up in a poor Jewish neighborhood in Toronto, unlike many of my friends, I never dreamt I was a baseball guy, and I will always be a baseball guy. For this, I would spend afternoons listening to a Buffalo radio station, listening to New York Yankee games if I couldn't get anything on Toronto radio station. But unlike my fellow inductees, all of which made it to the playing field, I never had the talent to make those dreams come true. And before I go to the talk about other things, I must recognize my fellow inductees who did the things that I could not do, and they did it, and I'm so proud of all of them. To be associated with them, just with them would be great. I want to So I really want to talk to you about the dreams that a young guy has. And, I was not a good athlete at all. And I had dreams of playing Major League Baseball. And I knew it was never going to take place. But I had the dreams nonetheless. So I chose another brand of excitement called politics. As a young councillor in the city of North York, I was envious of Montreal Mayor Jean Drapeau, who had put Montreal in the map with the Expo event in Montreal, as well the Montreal Expo baseball team, which I tried to keep as the rest of Major League Baseball was eliminating them. Someday I hope they're back. Someday, I hope when we were in office, and I was young councillor in Toronto, I wondered, why not Toronto? I thought we could be that dynamic city. We are that now, but we weren't back then. And so it became my mission to get a Major League Baseball team for our city. Now, before I go any further, the story of the birth of the Toronto Blue Jays doesn't happen without leadership and involvement of fellow Hall of Famers. Don McDougall is here. He was at Backs, and my good friend Herb Sullivan. And I got to tell you, if they weren't involved, there would be no baseball for Toronto. They opened the door. They helped, they did it all. It was here that when I went to go and start speaking to the people in Major League Baseball, I flew to Florida to attend the Winter League baseball meetings. It was here that I would do anything, and I really mean anything, to speak to Major League Baseball owners. And to give you an example of what I mean by anything, on one occasion, I even followed Los Angeles Dodgers Dodgers owner into a unit. I shouldn't be saying this. On one occasion, I even followed the LA Dodgers owner, Walter O'Malley, into a public washroom. As he stood next to the urinal, there I was, standing beside him, saying, "Mr. O'Malley, my name is Paul Godfrey. I would like to speak to you about bringing a baseball team to town." And without breaking stream, Walter O'Malley looked at me and said, "Do you mind if I finish peeing first?" At that point, I realized that his bat was bigger than mine. So I politely let him finish, and I waited in the lobby. Believe it or not, when that finished, I was still in the lobby, and he said, "Come up to my room." I wasn't totally sure what he did. I went up to his room, and I meditated. He was one of the guys that introduced me to so many of the people that led baseball teams, told me that a guy by the name of Louis Kuhn was going to come down shortly, and I should get in his way and talk to him. So I went back downtown and I realized, what am I going to tell the commissioner? I really don't know what I'm going to tell him because I'm from a small place in North York, and I don't know where North York is. But I figured I would do what most politicians do on space. Give it live. So I waited until Mr. Kuhn came down, and I said to him, "Mr. Commissioner, I want to bring Major League Baseball to our city in Toronto." The commissioner looked at me and asked, "When are you going to start playing?" And I said, "If you give me a team, I will promise you to build you a stadium." And he said, put his hand on my shoulder, 6'5", and said, "My son, first you build a stadium, then we'll look at you to decide whether we want to give you a baseball team." So I left with really walking with my tail between my legs, because he made the case clear. What I had to do is get a stadium built. But that's what they did to everybody. As a young guy getting it for the first time, I was devastated. So I should say by 1973, I became the chairman of Metropolitan Toronto, and in a better position to convince council that what Toronto really needed was a baseball stadium. The Toronto Exhibition Stadium at that time was used for both track and field and auto racing, not for any other sport. It was the furthest thing from my mind because it wasn't ideal and it wasn't even close to the state of the art that was needed. And what we had to make that do. Initial estimates, because we had to go get a sort of a set of plans to build something. But the initial estimates for the retro exhibition stadium was $30 million. Under today's numbers, that's not bad if you get away back. We're talking about 1969, and that was just not possible. So I decided that I went to Metro Council to get a commitment for $50 million. I then went to see Bill Davis at the province of Ontario and asked him to give me $15 million. But he said to me, "I can't give you have a team here yet. So another disappointment along the way. But he said with a wink, I will lend you $15 million. I said, okay. I will sign a note for $15 million to be paid by the taxpayers. And guess what? Guess what? It's been many years, probably 35 or 40 years. I haven't repaid it yet. I'm sure if Doug Ford figures I borrowed money from him, I haven't paid it yet. Paul tonight. As construction was about to begin, those initial estimates of $30 million had ballooned to $45 million already. Kind of typical of what happens today. I knew if I went back to the city or to the premier, the project would not get off the ground and it would all be called off. That's the way we would also speak talking anymore. And so it happened, the dream that was baseball in Toronto at a stadium that was so far away, it became no better than a nightmare than a dream. But it was ours, and what became known as a mistake by the lake. We ran to the commissioners and said to me, "You're not going to get away with saying you got something so small." So we wouldn't agree with that. Baseball in Toronto was starting to look more and more like a personality. Don McDougall, who's sitting in the audience today, was instrumental in assembling a potential ownership group that included Labatt's, the Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce, and our Howard Webster, a gentleman from Montreal who owned the Globe and Mail. In early 1975, I did receive a call from a gentleman in New York representing the San Francisco Giants, and he basically says, "You want to buy the Giants? You want to buy their business?" I said, "Don't move, I'm putting it there." He invited us to New York, and we went down to see him. And we were with him for probably on and off for probably 4 months, negotiating with this. And I was so wanting to tell everybody, I'm going to bring the Giants to Toronto. By November 75, the dreams were almost complete. And I did stand up publicly and say, guess what, folks? Giants are coming to Toronto, and we're going to own them. And we're going to be called the Giants. So we thought we had that in the bag. There was no doubt about that. But politicians do get in the way. They always get in the way. In January 1976, I got a call from San Francisco Mayor George Moscone. He told me he was going to do everything in his power to prevent the Giants from moving to Toronto. From one politician to another, he said, if you were in my position, Mr. Chairman, you do the exact thing that I'm doing to you right now. He was absolutely right. I hate it. I hate what you're trying. The Giants' dream was not to be done. For his part, Commissioner Coon was never in favor of moving the Giants to relocation, but he still was much in favor of something positive happening for us. The Commissioner had an idea of expanding to 4 new teams in baseball. New Orleans and Seattle in the American League, and Washington, and yes, Toronto in the National League. Back in those days, each league would vote on its own expansion. The National League voted against expansion, seemingly delivering another blow to our hopes. However, the American League voted in favor of expansion, and Commissioner Coon worked his magic in our favor. Commissioner pushed the American League to take on the 2 teams. Seattle to make up for the fact that the Seattle Pilots left and went to Milwaukee. And the other one told me and said, you got it, kid. Toronto. the roller coaster ride really came to a stop there. On April the 7th, 1977, the Toronto Blue Jays were born. Blue Jay president at that short period of time, Peter Bavasi, had asked me to throw the first ceremonial pitch out. And I said, I was lucky for one guy yet. Working all this time to throw the first ceremonial pitch out. However, we got a call from Premier Davis's office, and he asked that Bill Davis, who has yet to collect on his $15 million from Exhibition Stadium, he thought that the Premier, the higher ranked guys in Iowa, and he should have it. And I said, look, I said, we're called, you're the president of the Blue Jays. I said, well, let me think about it. 2 or 3 days later, believe it or not, there was a call from the Prime Minister in Ottawa. Pierre Trudeau said he was coming to Toronto, just by chance. He was coming to a baseball game. And certainly the Prime Minister of Canada deserves more power than anybody else. And he wanted to really get this. Peter Bavasi wasn't having any of that. His words were, screw the politicians. He said, screw Trudeau, screw Davis, and Godfrey, screw you too. So on April the 7th, he did say that, look, this baseball city should be in favor of young kids coming to it. And you have to admit, you have to start with the kids. Keep baseball growing at all times. So on April 7th, 1977, I was in great pride because he chose a 4-year-old boy by the name of Paul Godfrey to hold the first ceremony. And since that day, there have been many celebrations of baseball blessings. The people of Toronto love baseball and were proud of their team. At the same time, they weren't so proud of that mistake by the lake of the stadium that the Jays played in. I would be getting calls. How cheap are you guys? You got a great baseball team. We're penny pitching. And it's pretty hard to really talk about them. But there's a surprise in it. In early 1983, Brascan CEO Trevor Eaton called me and asked for my support to build a replacement for Exhibition Stadium. One that would be immune to the harsh Canadian weather, and one that talked to me about putting a roof on it. And what Rob said, I've been saying for 2 days now, but really back when we talked about this in the beginning, I met Buck Martinez, and Buck said to me, don't put a roof on the team. We hate playing indoors. I said, then what should we do? He said, build something that the roof can go on and off, like if you have a Cadillac car. Said that to me in Vancouver. I said, oh my God, you got a Cadillac, man. I went back, and I met with council, and they bought it, and went on to build something that was immune to harsh Canadian weather and protected everyone from any obstacles in the city. And we were the first one in Canada to do that. Trevor Eaton, by the way, who's mentioned talking with us now, also got commitments from all 3 levels of government to make the Sky Dome, now known as the Rogers Center, a gallery. But you know what? I have to tell you that there's a lot of bumps in the road, and it all went through. A lot of people still have fun today. So I want to thank, in closing, I want to thank some people that helped me get to the Hall of Fame. Making a lot of good things happen. Paul Godfrey and Stephen Grunt, I want to thank them for nominating me to the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame. To Pat Gillett, who worked with Godfrey, brought 2 world championships to Toronto. Not easy for that. I want to thank the late Ted Rogers. You gave me the opportunity to live out every kid's dreams of being in a Major League Baseball. Being the president of the Blue Jays was truly an honor of a lifetime. There's no doubt that. To all the people I worked for at the Blue Jays, your commitment, your loyalty, and your passion made life easy to live. To Mark Shapiro, who has fixed that stadium up to be the best stadium in North America. And I think we should all be very proud of that. I want to thank once again all the inductees, especially their parents. Their parents helped get them, maybe the parents of a lot of these things deserve as much reputation as people themselves. To my family, and to my wife Gina, we're the rock. I raised our 3 boys. We created a home that helped all of us in the success we had. To my 3 boys, Rob, Noah, and Jay, being your dad has been the privilege of a lifetime for me. Thank you for sharing this and all the other fun things we've had since then. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.